otherwise is immediately going to be punished. Right? So what you recognize in the process of, and this is very, I know I'm sort of beating this to death, and I'm not trying to, beat it to death, but it's profoundly important, at least to me, is that we have to recognize, as is the case with sort of biological diversity. We all know now that biological diversity is a natural process of sort of evolution, and that, the more we commingle, the more we share ideas, the more we biologically integrate as people, the stronger we become, as opposed to sort of asexual reproduction, where one attack on a cell, for example, would kill the whole colony because they're all identically the same. We recognize that diversity strengthens, right? So some people are going to go this way, some people are going to go that way. We become more diverse as a people because we all aren't acting exactly the same way. We all use different forms of rational deliberation in order to get to whatever ends we want, rather than the entirety of society acting in conformity, right? It's a shame if you begin this process of rational deliberation in your 20s or your 30s. I know lots and lots of people that first begin this process in their 20s and their 30s, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. This is why I'm doing my YouTube channel, because I know a lot of you, for the first time in your lives probably, are really considering, okay, and not just this sort of cliche, I used to believe in God and now I don't believe in God, right? That to me is less important, to be honest with you. I really don't, of all the sections in Nietzsche's Will to Power, book 2 is, it's okay. It's a lot of, I don't like Christianity, I don't like Jesus. Okay, fine. What's really important, though, is more, Nietzsche was, and this is important, right? Nietzsche was able to look at the most powerful, prevailing moral imperative in the world at his time and completely deconstruct it. That power of rational deliberation didn't begin just immediately. It's not like he just picked up the Bible and said, oh, no, he must have been trained, right? So the earlier you begin this process of rational deliberation, the younger you are. Elementary school, where you begin to sort of problem solve on your own, right? It's not just 2 + 2 = 4. In Jamaica, you'd be like 2 2s 4 4 4s 8. And it's, you don't go through that per se, sort of being an automaton. It's like, how do you problem solve? The quicker you're able to be introduced to that idea, is the more powerful a deliberator you will become, right? But unfortunately, a lot of people aren't introduced to this until much, much later. Okay. So, number 3, that it does not matter whether a thing is true, but only the effect it produces is a lack of intellectual integrity, as we said. Everything is justified. Lies, slander, the most shameless forgery, if it serves to raise the temperature until one believes, right? So everything is justified on this system. The moral imperative can justify anything, right? The moral imperative justifies any and everything, right? If the moral imperative says to do X, despite the fact that there might be an instance in which, I'll give a perfect example. If the moral imperative says, thou shalt not kill, ever, you can never kill, and you have, again, another example that I've been beaten to death through, I don't know, a million of my videos, is Toni Morrison's Beloved, right? You're a mother, you flee the slave catchers, you have an infant daughter, and you know the atrocities that happens in slavery, and you know that they're going to take your daughter, and they're going to treat your daughter like chattel, and you know that she's going to be abused sexually, physically, psychologically. You know that that's what waits for her. Then who are you to tell me that I shouldn't kill my child? Killing my child is a more respectable, is a more humane means of acting in the world with respect to the particular situation in hand than allowing the slave traders to come and grab my daughter and let her live in a life of slavery. No, I'm going to kill her. There's no question about it, and I'll deal with whatever repercussions I have to deal with later, right? That's what we need, right? We need. I can't, I can't say how much. When I first read that, I didn't particularly like the movie, but when I first read it, I was like, this is it. We need more of that rebellious spirit, right? That, no, why is it that you want me to do X? Justify to me why I need to do X. And if it's simply the case that you want to do it because I said to do it, then you can recognize that anything will be justified, right? I'm going to be the type of person that does the most heinous acts in the world, and I am completely without compulsion because I'm just conforming to some rule. I don't think on my own. Master says kill, I kill. Master says sit down and be quiet, I sit down and be quiet. Master says start dancing, and I get to dancing. Well, that's not going to happen. So, the question then becomes, what are examples of these ideas, right? And Nietzsche, all of this comes from Note 170. And in the last video series, I strongly recommend that you guys spend some time and really go through 170. So, what are some of the ideas that speak to the truth, right? Because they are so effective an idea, what are some of these ideas that speak to truth? The first one is the afterlife. Okay? So the first idea is the afterlife. The argument is the idea of the afterlife has to be true because so many people believe in the afterlife. Right? The idea of the afterlife has to be true. Why? Because so many people believe in the afterlife, right? Millions of people, billions of people. You know, the overwhelming vast majority of the world's population believe in an afterlife, right? Because nearly all, I would imagine this in the 90s, nearly 90%, let's say, of the total global population believes in an afterlife. Well, that has to point to the truth of the afterlife. Why? The effect proves that it must be true. Remember, the example that I said with respect to, sort of condescending tone, but, just so that you can think of Santa Claus, we don't say that Santa Claus is true because the age group of 1 to 5-year-olds all believe that he exists, right? There isn't a demonstration of proof. There isn't a demonstration of truth to some ontological claim because people have a certain belief, right? Our ontological existence isn't contingent on belief. You can use belief to understand existence, but existence is itself not contingent on belief. Because if it were, and now I'm going a little fast and I apologize, but if you can follow this, and I can't break this down anymore, but if existence were contingent on belief, then it would be like the Green Lantern movie, or it would be like solipsism, right? It would be all of this exists because I believe it to exist, and if I think there is no pyramid in Egypt until I see it, then it doesn't exist. Well, that's just sort of naive world view, right? Or if I feel like I can sort of bring things into existence by the power of my mind, or that, the community of viewers is, I can name all of them. Well, I mean, you can believe that all you want, but that doesn't mean that it's true, right? So, the belief in the afterlife, yeah, a lot of people believe in the afterlife, but where is the demonstration of proof? In a little bit, what I'm going to talk about are the ontological, sort of using Kant. I know Nietzsche wouldn't want me to use Kant, but Kant really talks about sort of this leap of, and I'm not going to incorporate Kantian concepts into Nietzsche, I think that would be wrong for Nietzsche, but sort of the leap that's made, the transcendental sort of leap in error. So, the idea of the afterlife, right? Obviously, we believe that this idea is true because so many people believe in the afterlife. In a little bit, probably in the next hour, I'll talk specifically about the epistemological error that's made in discussing conceptions of the afterlife. The next is, number 2, is personal immortality, right? Personal immortality. We saw before, and this is important, right? And I don't know why. I have a sense like I just ended up getting really deep over the last few videos, and I want to make sure that you understand how I got to this point. The idea of personal immortality from the last, if you've been watching in sequence, right, is a conflation between the symbol, right, the symbol of rebirth or resurrection, right, which has been conflated with sort of this historical attempt to situate rebirth in the physical body, right, which means like resurrection of like a Walking Dead type, or not to be joking, like Lazarus, right, the story of Lazarus, that physically dead people were brought back from death out of the grave, right, that you were physically dead, and that despite the fact that you were physically dead, the body itself was brought back, right? So that sort of the resurrection of the body.